Early in 2017, YouTube personality Movie Bob did a video about the movies he was most and least excited for in the coming year. During that video, he claimed no one wants a King Arthur movie, and as a lifetime lover of Arthurian legend, I was horrified to hear that. But now that The Last Jedi has come and gone, I think I see what he means. Crap damn, we're talking about my two oldest heroes today. It should not be controversial to say that Luke Skywalker is a character derived heavily from the King Arthur myth. And I've never been more certain of this until the end of The Last Jedi. Now, while other YouTubers, Movie Bob included, have gone over this in a couple of videos, I'm going to set up some context before I get too deep into this. The most obvious parallels between Luke and the once and future king come from the legend of the Sword and Stone. Vulgate cycle Arthur and Luke Skywalker stories begin almost the same way. A young man receives a call to adventure from a wise hermit. For Luke, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and for Arthur, it's the prototypical mentor wizard, Merlin. Through this call to adventure, both receive a legendary sword, once owned by their respective Turdweasel fathers, which reveals their respected sacred bloodlines and an eventual major victory. And for most people, that was enough. I imagine if you ask the average American who hasn't watched Fate or Excalibur about the Arthur legend, they might talk about his wife cheating on him with his most trusted knight, but more likely they'll just tell you Arthur was the guy who drew the sword from the stone and then just kept winning. For pop culture, this is the only image of Arthur most people see. An Arthur whose life reached its peak when he pulled a magic sword from a rock. We see this in countless films, be it in monumentally dumb Guy Ritchie movies, or in the literal climax of the Disney classic that I'm willing to bet introduced a good chunk of my audience to Arthur in the first place. This was also the direction the original Star Wars trilogy takes with the legend. Luke not only plays a core part in defeating the Galactic Empire, but he also becomes a messianic figure of his universe's dominant religion, leading the galaxy to a new era of peace. This is not unlike Arthur, who, armed with the Sword of Selection, defeated the long-time invading Saxons and united Britain under the utopian flag of Camelot. But for the Arthur legends, even the earliest ones, this is only the beginning, and that makes this the greatest divergent Star Wars made from the source material, until The Last Jedi. In almost every version of the Arthur story, Camelot simply cannot maintain itself, and the peace Arthur once upheld is destroyed when his traitorous young relative, Mordred, betrays him, rending the kingdom asunder and sending Arthur into a spiral of self-doubt as everything he has ever accomplished is destroyed. Nevertheless, Arthur confronts Mordred in a battle he can't possibly win. But by doing so, he preserves his own legend for generations to come. Anyone who's seen The Last Jedi may think this story sounds familiar, and it's a big part of why I loved the movie. The camera work was amazing, the lightsaber action was some of the best in the series, and finally, the Jedi religion actually feels spiritual again. But the biggest highlight for me was seeing Luke come to the only end I really ever felt was an option for him. After years of being disappointed by Arthurian adaptations, either ending too early or skipping the tragedy that produces Arthur's ultimate triumph, without hyperbole, I can honestly say The Last Jedi is the King Arthur movie I always wanted. And maybe this is part of why so many people reacted so strongly to it in the opposite direction. I've heard a lot of complaints, most of which I honestly don't think hold water. But one I've seen some people cling to was that they simply don't like what was done with Luke in this movie. They wanted Luke to be the hero. They wanted him to be more ridiculously powerful than that guy from Force Unleashed. They wanted him to draw that lightsaber and just keep winning. But would that be a real victory? Yeah, Luke has stumbling points in the original trilogy, as Arthur had his smaller failures in the Legends. But when the central theme of your story is hope...
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
You need to show what's at stake. You need to see what it means when all hope is lost. We need to see our heroes at their lowest possible point. Furthermore, while it may seem unimportant to some, it's important to know that the earliest written version of the Arthur story only mentions two things. His victory at the Battle of Baden Hill, which half the movies about him do, and that both he and Mordred fell at Camlin. That's the part of the story we almost never see. Half the original legend is ignored just because it's a downer. Luke will always be the hero of the original trilogy. He saved the galaxy and his father's soul. No small feat. But what happens after the Chosen One has done what he was chosen to do? Does he still have any value? Can you save your legacy? And how would you go about doing it? The answer may not be simple, but it's timeless, and I feel that it's just as strong for Luke as it was for Arthur. Accepting that our heroes can be flawed is very hard, though. Modern culture, especially on the internet, leaves little room for failure. And you need to look no further than seeing how people reacted to Luke's flaws, even if it meant a much more meaningful victory, and his legend bringing hope to the galaxy. And if this is how people reacted to Luke, maybe it is true. Maybe people don't want a King Arthur movie. At least, not a real one. But I sincerely hope that's not the case. Because, personally, Arthur's sacrifice will always mean something to me. Be it on the fields of Camlin, or the salt deserts of Crete. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video essay. If you did enjoy it, please check out my other videos, and also remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. If you really want to support me, please check out my Patreon, where you can provide some financial support to my hectic life. And as always, peace, love, and donuts, and keep on spocking in the free world.